All right, let's dive in. If you've ever wanted to build some seriously powerful, professional-grade APIs with Django, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the Django REST framework and see how it makes building out your backend not just possible, but actually kind of fun. So, let's get started. Think about this for a second. You pull out your phone, you open up your weather app, you hit refresh, and boom. Instantly, you've got the current temperature, the forecast for the next 10 days, all of it. So how does that even happen? How does that little app on your device talk to some massive weather database halfway across the world and get all that information back in the blink of an eye? Well, the secret sauce is something called an API, an application programming interface. The best way to think about it is like a waiter in a restaurant. You, the customer, have an app. You tell the waiter, that's the API, what you want. The waiter goes to the kitchen, the server with all the data, gets your order, and brings it right back to your table. It's that critical go-between that lets two totally different pieces of software have a conversation. Okay, so just like people speak different languages, applications have different ways of talking to each other. Not all APIs are built the same, so it's really important to understand the one that basically runs the modern web. You probably hear about two big ones, SOAP and REST. Now, SOAP is the older way of doing things. It's a bit more rigid, uses a format called XML. But for pretty much everything we do on the web today, the undisputed champion is REST. It's way more flexible, it's lightweight, and it is the foundation for almost every web service you use every single day. So for us, it's all about REST. And here's the really cool part. The language of REST is actually super simple. It all boils down to just 4 basic things you'd ever want to do with data. We call it CRUD. That's create, read, update, and delete. And REST cleverly maps these actions to the HTTP methods you might already know. So if you want to read some data, you just send a GET request. If you want to create a new piece of data, you send a POST request. It's this beautiful, intuitive system that makes managing data so straightforward. Now that we know the language, let's meet the tool we're going to use. So we know we want to build a REST API, and we're using Django. So how do we bridge that gap? Well, allow me to introduce you to your new best friend. This is the Django REST Framework, or DRF, as you'll hear it called. It is an absolutely fantastic library that sits right on top of Django. And its whole purpose in life is to make building APIs as painless and efficient as possible. It literally handles all the tricky, boring plumbing for you, so you can just focus on building your app. And why is it such a game changer? I mean, just look at this. It takes all the complexity away. It has this incredible component called a serializer, which is like its secret weapon. We'll get to that. It even gives you this amazing browsable web page to test your API right out of the box. And on top of that, it handles things like security and permissions, and it integrates perfectly with the Django models you already know. It's just awesome. Okay, I mentioned that secret weapon. Let's pull back the curtain on what is, without a doubt, the most important concept in DRF, the serializer. Here's the core idea. Your Django application, it understands complex data types, right? Like Python objects from your database models. But the outside world, a mobile app, a JavaScript front end, it needs that data in a simple, universal format, usually JSON. A serializer is that brilliant translator that sits in the middle. It takes your complex Python objects and turns them into simple JSON. And it can do the reverse, taking incoming JSON and turning it back into data your application can work with. Right, so you've got this Django model for, say, a student. It has a name, email, age, but what if it has 20 fields, or 50? Are you really supposed to sit there and manually write out the translation rules for every single field? That sounds like a total nightmare. And of course, the answer is no. This is where DRF is just so smart. It gives you this incredible tool called the ModelSerializer. You literally just tell it, hey, use this Django model, and bam! It automatically inspects your model and creates all the necessary fields and validation rules for you. This one feature saves you from writing mountains of boring, repetitive code. Okay, enough theory. Let's actually see this in action. We're going to walk through the 5 basic steps to get your very first API endpoint up and running. And you're going to be shocked at just how fast it is. And here it is. This is the whole roadmap. You create a Django app, define your data with a model, create that magic serializer, write the view to handle the logic, and finally, hook it all up with a URL. Just 5 steps. Let's quickly look at each one. So we'll skip step 1 since that's just running Start App. Let's jump to step 2, creating our model. This is 100% standard Django stuff.
We just create a student model in models.py and define the fields we want, like name, email, and age. This is the blueprint for our data.
Next up, step 3, the serializer. This is where we use that magic we just talked about. We create a student serializer that uses the model serializer, we point it at our student model, and we tell it what fields to include. That's it, a few lines of code, and DRF now knows how to translate our student data perfectly. Now for the brains of the operation, the view. The view's job is to handle the incoming request. So in this case, its job is simple. Get all the student records from the database, pass them through our new serializer to turn them into JSON, and then send that JSON back as a response. It's the traffic controller for our API. And the final piece of the puzzle, the URL. Here, we just connect a web address, something like /students, directly to that view function we just wrote. It's like putting a sign on the door that tells Django, hey, when a request comes to this address, run this code. And with that, our API is officially live. Okay, so we've built it, we've written the code, but does it actually work? Building is one thing, but you always have to verify. Let's talk about testing. One of the most critical tools for any backend developer is an application called Postman. You can think of it like a Swiss Army knife for APIs. It lets you build and send any kind of request you want to your API, and then shows you exactly what your API sends back. It's absolutely essential for testing and debugging. And using it could not be easier. You just open Postman, you paste in your new API's URL, you pick the method you want to test, like get to fetch our students, and you hit send. And right there, you'll see the clean JSON data that your API returned. It's the perfect way to make sure everything is running smoothly. But here's something really, really cool about DRF. You don't even need Postman to start. If you just navigate to your API's URL in a regular web browser, DRF automatically generates this beautiful browsable web page for you. You can see your data, you can even submit new data using a form. It makes getting started and debugging an absolute breeze. It's a fantastic feature. So let's just quickly recap the big ideas here. First, Django REST Framework makes building APIs in Django way, way easier. Second, serializers are the heart of the whole thing. They are your magic data translators. Third, everything is built on those 4 simple CRUD operations, and this is why it all matters. An API is the bridge that connects your powerful Django backend to literally any front end you can dream of. And finally, always, always test your work with tools like Postman. So we've covered the what, the why, and the how. You now have the fundamental blueprint for creating powerful, professional REST APIs with Django. So the only real question left is, what amazing thing are you going to build with it?